Hey everybody, this is Pat from NeQter Labs. I'm here with Nick,
Hi, everyone.
and yep, and we'll just wait a minute, let some more people file in. Um, but we're going to be going through today's town hall. We don't really have a whole lot that is new. I do have a few items on the agenda that I will walk through. And when I say nothing new, we haven't had a new release in the past month or so. We did move this meeting to the second week of September because I was on travel. I actually attended NDIA's Navy Gold Coast conference in San Diego, so I don't know if anyone was out there for that. But we'll get started, and this is mostly going to be a Q&A, much like last time, and this time the audio is a bit better. So we'll be getting that recording as soon as it finishes. We'll be getting that up on our YouTube page. So some of the items I wanted to cover today. So we will be able to access and go through the demo unit with any questions that you have. But some upcoming updates, some things that we're working on. We actually shuffled some things around with our update schedule, and we're actually ahead of schedule with certain items. Our next major update, what we're going to be doing is currently NeQter sits on top of Ubuntu 18.04, with that being end of life or just regular end of life support. They do have the extended support, but we won't be using that. It is end of life next spring, so we are upgrading currently to Ubuntu 20. With that, it's going to come with some improvements underneath, allowing things to be more efficient and, of course, up to date. So we are updating to Ubuntu 20. With that, we are also updating uh, the current version of OpenVOS to a newer version of OpenVOS, because I know that there has been some reported issues that the version we're currently using is a little bit farther behind than, of course, newer versions. So we are updating to the latest and greatest version of OpenVOS. So I don't have a definitive date on what that update looks like. We were looking at for this update, we were looking at early 23, but now it should be out in the next couple of months that we have that. So there's going to be a new look and feel to the vulnerability scanner and some enhanced functionality. And we're also going to be going to Ubuntu 18. It's going to be a standing upgrade. So for those of you who remember version 1 to version 2, it's not going to be anything like that. We don't have to go through that again, fortunately. With the new update to Ubuntu 20, one of the things that we're going to explore, and this actually comes up on the next item of the agenda, we are moving to new hardware. So to date, everything that we have had with the hardware has been super micro, that 1U mini chassis that you've all come to know and love. We are moving to ASUS hardware. And what that's going to allow us to do is a few things. It's a little bit bigger. So the Super Micro is a 1U rack mount front post where it goes back about 11 inches. This new one's going to go back about 15, 16 inches, so just a little bit bigger there. But one of the things that we're going to do with this new hardware is a build to order. So there are some certain things that we can explore, such as dual power supplies, different network interface cards, and with some changes to how our software runs, we will be able and we will be exploring enhanced storage capabilities and ability for with the new type of hardware that we have, hot swapping capabilities instead of now. Of course, if there's an issue with RAID or you have to replace a drive, you have to open up the box. So, of course, all the hardware that you have is still supported and it still has the warranties that you got on purchase. But as we get closer to supporting this new hardware, it will be in the next few weeks that we'll have some more information on it. If you wish to transition to new hardware and get a new warranty or have a build to order unit, that is something that, please reach out and we'll look to assist you with that. So some exciting stuff on that front. With the new hardware, additionally, one of the things that we are going to be adding in is support for the TPM that we're going to be having in that new hardware is going to be Fips validated hardware. So it's going to be on the Fips validated list for that new hardware. And one of the things that we're going to be exploring with the Ubuntu 20 upgrade is going to be supporting at the software level Fips validated, using a Fips validated module for Ubuntu. That itself is going to involve licensing with Ubuntu that we're going to have to coordinate because they have that in one of their support packages. Fips is not included at the base levels of Ubuntu. So again, as we have more information on that, we will provide that and look to support you guys on that. Of note, currently, the interpretation of a SIM tool, the NeQter platform, doesn't require the use of Fips validated cryptography. That's more for encryption of CUI in transit or at rest or processing. So that's going to fall more under, the jurisdiction of a VPN through the use of a firewall, for example. But of course, things may change in future, so we're just trying to get in front of it instead of being behind the 8 ball on this. So that's why we're exploring, looking at adding Fips as an option, as a licensable option moving forward. So we'll have some more information on that in the coming weeks. Nick, any questions I've missed, or I'll just keep going through
No, you
this
can keep
here.
going. No questions so far.
Okay. This next bulleted item, agent installation. Many people have moved to the new agents, and I say new, the ones that we came out with at the beginning of this year with the agent manager. The agent manager agent. So of course, before, especially calling back to earlier versions of version 2 of the platform, where you used to have agents in. Actually, let me just pull that up on the system. Prior, when you used to go into the inputs area and add an input and select agent as that input, of course, we're no longer doing that. The new method of doing agents is through hosts in the agent manager. The agents are located, if we kick out the knowledge base here, and if we go to initial setup and we go to, or also we can go to the user's manual, we can go to hosts, we have agents, and you can download the agents in the hosts area here, the NeQter agent download. Just want to make sure everyone is up on the latest and greatest agent, because those new agents allow us to see all of the information that we're able to see in the hosts area. If you have any, so in the settings area here, in the inputs area, if you have any agents still left in here, those are not going. They're still going to send on the settings that they were, previously. But of course, you need to go into hosts and organize and configure agents through that method there. What I had done was I pulled up over here in the knowledge base. You're able to download the new agents from the NeQter agent download, and it's going to be an MSI installer, and you can push that out through group policy, and everything will get identified and located in here. Now, I'm sure a lot of people, especially those on the call, have deployed the new agents from a while back and are utilizing the grouping here in the hosts area here, but of course, just want to make sure that you're on the latest and greatest. If there are any agents in that old method of inputs, you're not going to be getting the new insight flyout, metrics area, this inventory area. You're going to have a gap in the visibility and the information that you're going to be able to see in your NeQter. And even if you were to go and try to add an input, if you were to go and try to add, you're unable to do so. This inputs area is just for syslog now. So just wanted to highlight that, making sure everyone is up and up on the latest. So just wanted to capture that. The next item I have on today's agenda is going to be the discussing Azure VM hosting. So this is something that so we have quite a few
Uh,
users who have.
Hey Pat,
Yep.
before you
Mhm.
move on
Oh,
from the
sure.
agents,
Of course.
Steve Cuppy just posted a question. He was asking, doesn't the new agent manager have to be configured for the NeQter IP address?
Yes. Yep. So what you can typically do is, and I'm just going to pull up. Uh, just going to pull up my view for the agent here. Um, so yeah, so you're going to have to, so there's two ways you could do it. If you're doing that manual install of the agent, you go through the prompts, you install it, and then it's going to pop up here and prompt you to put the address of your NeQter license. You can edit the MSI to automatically add the address and repackage it and deploy that out, so that you can have an automated means of deployment. But yeah, so you will need to input the source IP of your NeQter license in that agent, and then once it performs that handshake, it phones home, that agent is going to get listed out in the hosts area here and can get further configured under the agents tab. It's going to be located in the default group first, and then we're going to be able to uh, go and edit this default group, or you can add new groups and configure them how you like, and then move that agent, or rather move that host, to be in whatever group you choose to send it to. When it gets moved into that group, it will show up and it will absorb those group settings and get updated accordingly.
And a follow-up question from Steve.
Mhm.
He would also like to know how he can tell which endpoints or workstations are on which version of the agent manager software.
Mhm. So it's actually this version uh, column is going to let you know which version of the agent that you're currently using. If it's the old agent, it's not going to show up in here. It's still going to show up in that settings and inputs area. So you'll know if, of course, if it's in here, that means it's not in hosts. Um, and yeah, so if it's not in hosts, then that means that you aren't on the current agent. And then once you're on a certain version, I forget the exact version number, but once you're on the right version of the agent, it will show up in hosts and will identify that version for you. Hopefully that answers your question.
And just for clarification, Pat,
Mm-hmm.
the most recent version of the agent that we released at the beginning of this year, we haven't done any version updates to since then. It's just been the original one, correct? Or are there
Um,
multiple potential versions of the original agent that they should be looking out for?
I want to say, and we can get back on this. I believe that the major version is the same, like 2.11. I think there were a couple subsequent, like 2.11.1, 2.11.2, 2.11.3, potentially. But like 2.11 is the base, and then a 2.11.5 is the current version. I believe 2.11.5 does date to earlier this year. The months just just go by. So I believe that's the latest that came out earlier this year, and we will be looking to do an agent update in the coming months. But 2.11.5 is the current. There shouldn't, and I know this is this is kind of a catch-all statement. This isn't to go to say that there's a new agent and all that stuff. I'm exclusively talking about if someone has not experienced. It used to be the Agent Manager tab, now it's the Hosts tab. Basically, the version of that agent is what I'm talking about. We still have some users, some users that go all the way back to the start 2018 or so. They may still be on the previous manually installed agent version. So this is just kind of casting a net to catch everyone, to just talk about the new features of the hosts area. Yeah.
All right.
Um,
I think that
any
answers
other?
everything with that.
Okay, awesome.
You're welcome, Steve.
Any other questions, Nick, for now?
Nope. Nope. Steve just dropped a thank you in there for you.
Okay, awesome. So what I wanted to mention, next up, the Azure VM hosting. So we do have some customers who are on VMs, of course, or quite a few on hardware, and there's a few more utilizing VMs. We have had a couple clients who have spun up NeQter in the cloud, Oracle Cloud, AWS, and Azure. The reason I'm bringing up Azure is because to date, the way to host the system in Azure was a nested VM, basically spinning up a hypervisor or spinning up Hyper-V and then installing a VM. So for example, for a tier one where the resources are 4 cores, 32 gigs of RAM, 500 gigs of dedicated storage, one would have to spin up a 6 or 8 core system with double the RAM and double the storage for the hypervisor. Because the reason we had that was because we hadn't altered our underlying ISO in order to support. Azure does some stuff differently, and it wasn't prepared to be hosted that way. So unfortunately, some clients had to pay double the resources and have double the cost up in Azure. So we have built and are in the process of testing, and we're wrapping up testing for what I'm referring to as our Azure Native Vm. So it's going to be one-to-one resources that you would install a VM locally. So we're going to be able to have, or clients are going to be able to spin up a VM, with the true resource count. So a tier one will just be the 4 core, 32 gigs, as per usual, and save cost. And it's also going to allow us, one of the things that we're going to be doing is kind of packaging that VM and having it be available in Azure Marketplace. So much easier deployment, in selecting that asset, rather than fumbling through and having to go and specifically specify the resources and the the locales and all the intricacies of cloud. So just wanted to touch upon that. That is something that we're coming out with. So that being said, if somebody has a local VM and is looking maybe at going to Azure, or even in future, maybe you're moving hybrid or you're moving more cloud, and upon renewal of NeQter, it might make sense not to continue to support the hardware. You might be looking to Azure. We are going to be able to fully support that. So just wanted to mention that as as an option moving forward, and have more information on that in the coming weeks as we wrap up finalizing testing, and are going to explore hopefully having that in Azure Marketplace by end of year or so. So just wanted to talk about that. Any other questions pop up, Nick, or I'll go to the next section?
Nope, you can keep going.
Okay. So for so unknown hosts scan and review. So going back to the hosts area, one of the newest areas and one of my favorite areas is this new unknown hosts area. So what this is going to do is this is going to be pulling information from your vulnerability scans. And if an asset isn't listed in hosts, it's going to list it as an unknown host. So agents, of course, automatically get added. When you add an input, it's going to automatically add that input. So I, for example, added the Sonic wall with, this dummy IP. When you add an input in the inputs area, it's going to tag it as a syslog input, and then it's going to tag it with the vendor of the of the index of that input. So in those two drop downs, we're going to get those three values, and we're going to be able to see if an asset is pushing logs. So if it's not a agent, if it's not a syslog input, it is going to be located in the unknown hosts area. So it's going to be leveraging vulnerability scans that you already have. So what we recommend is for you to set up a vulnerability scan where you can set it up to be maybe daily. So I'll just go and I'll select, so this is for my demo network, this discovery scan. I'll go and look at the settings here. So you can specify, a scan target that you've already made. So for this is just the class C, the full range of my demo network. And you can schedule this. So I actually don't have this scheduled. So I'll go and I'll set this up to be daily. And I'll just set it up to be daily scan. And we also recommend, of course, that you use the discovery scan configuration. So I'll just save that for now, and we can see that it is scheduled to be for 6 o'clock tonight, and the task is scheduled, so I can't run an ad hoc scan. So I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to change that so that I can run it right now. We're just going to say we're going to run it once. So yeah, so if we go over here and we make a new task, you're going to be able to change the schedule, you're going to be able to change the targets, and you're going to want to pull up discovery as the option. Full and fast is going to be the OpenVOS default. So just change that to discovery, and I'm just going to pull that schedule, and so it went away. So I'm just going to run this right now, just so we can detect if there's any unknown hosts. And every time we run the scan, of course, it's going to come in here and it's going to list them out. And then we can go through and compare the scans, as they occur. So as the scan is running, we're going to be able to view results, and we're actually going to be able to see any results in the hosts area. So I can click in here. We can see that there's been 10 results. We can see that there's one host that is detected as part of the scan. We can see also that it's 34% done, and we can see that it is running. So again, if we go into hosts and we go into unknown, we're going to be able to see if there's any unknown results. They're going to get located up in here. And if you schedule that to run daily, you'll hopefully be able to see, if there's anything that pops up, you're going to be able to see it in the unknown hosts area. So we'll see if it. So we can see that. So it pulled up 3 hosts so far. and we'll check this out over here. So wait until the scan's over, and then I know that there's one host that will be able to add that I haven't reconciled into my inventory that I'll be able to add into here and save it. So this one, this unknown host was already added. Actually, if I remove this, it's going to show back up in this unknown hosts area. We can see that this one popped up. So if you need to know more information about the asset, one of the things that you can do is you can click on the host, and you're going to be able to grab insight on that host, so we can see if there's any vulnerabilities associated. So these are zeros, these are all log level vulnerabilities. And we can also see traffic to and from the host. So this is going to filter down the IPs associated with this detected host against whatever firewall or networking traffic that you're pushing into the system. So for us in that case, it's pfSense. And we're going to be able to see all events with this asset: inbound, outbound, severity level, um, source IP, destination IP, and any filtering information that's getting pulled in from that traffic log. We're also going to be able to, if we click on the hardware here, we're going to be able to do a live scan. And this is also what will happen if we go over to the right, we click on this down arrow, it's going to perform a live scan of um, the host, and it's going to give us more clear information about maybe host name, IPs, MAC addresses, uh, uh, available ports, manufacturer, things like that. So we can see, so this is a Linux OS. We can see its estimated uptime value. We can also see IP and MAC information, and we can also see that this is a VM asset, and I can attest that that is true. This also has port 8888 open. So actually, this is helpful because if we click on that port, so this is going to take me, this is going to lead me to a road to nowhere for this particular port. But if this was a management port or a management console, when we click on that port, it's going to open up that web page in a new tab, and it will show us, maybe if it was like a Cisco switch and is having us access that management portal, it's going to load up that login page, so we can see, oh, okay, that's my Cisco switch. And then what we do is we go up over here to the top right, and we can click add this host to inventory. Now we can give this host a custom name, so I'm just going to give it something not too special, Linux VM1. We can give it an additional description. We can give it an asset tag if it had one. So I'll just type in some numbers there. We can give it a location. Maybe this is on the shop floor. And we can also assign it dynamic tags. So by default, it's going to get vulnscan discovered as a default dynamic tag. But if we added some in here. So Linux is one that we added. One that I personally added was like shop floor. So any tag that you see fit, whether it's the OS, maybe maybe I want to say that this is a VM, or if it's or if it's a desktop or a laptop, if it's a CRMA asset, or maybe this is a CUI asset. So we can assign that tag. And now I'm going to hit save. And this host is no longer going to be located in the unknown hosts area. It's going to show up for me in the inventory. And so let me just expand this out. And if I look for the tag here, CUI, so I can see that this host is now part of the inventory. I can see that it is available. I can see all the tags that it has, and then I can also click on it again and get the insight flyout. Anytime I click on hardware for for a asset that is vulnscan discovered, it will do a live scan when prompted. We can also see if there are any events that are associated with this asset. So if there's any uptime, downtime changes. If so we can see that the only event that is associated with this asset is that has been added to the inventory. And that's actually a low level alert that will show up in this events area here. So I'm going to see a little green indicator that this unknown host has been added to my inventory. Anytime that a host is deleted from the inventory as well, so I just went through that exercise on the call right here, we can track that progress as well.
Pat, while
Mhm,
you're on this subject, John Watton also noted that
mhm,
whenever he resolves all of his unknown hosts and gives them names and tags, uh, whenever they have an IP changed, they return back to the unknown category in recent vulnerability scans. And he
mhm,
was wondering if there would be any kind of way to track the IP changes and keep
mhm.
the names and tags so it doesn't go back in there and have to be redone every time.
Um, yeah, so I believe that that is a limitation of the system right now, where if the leases are up and they get new dynamic IPs, and the IPs are different for a host that is previously unknown, it will get listed as a new unknown. The only real way as of right now, I believe, to maintain the host in the inventory is if it does get an agent, or if it's added as an input. um, I believe that we were potentially looking at having it where it pairs up the host name with, say, Mac. But of course, the Mac could be stripped, and it could just be the Mac address of the last switch port. So as of right now, I don't know if there is a way to avoid that. I can ask if there is a way that we're doing right now to pair up the two dynamic, whether it's the host name in the Mac, or in order to keep that host in the inventory. Um, I think the thought process that we had was that if it's an asset that is going to be part of infrastructure, it's typically going to have a static IP, and it's typically going to be pushing syslog, or it's going to receive an agent on it, whether it's Windows or Linux or Mac. So if you do have other assets like access point might not be a good example, but IoT devices or phones, or things like that, that are consistently and dynamically changing their IP, I don't think that there is currently a way to avoid that. I can go back to the dev team and ask if there's a way that we're mitigating that. And I think that answers Steve, your question of what would cause the host name to appear multiple times. It wouldn't be a host name necessarily showing up multiple times. It would be the same host, quote unquote, that John just brought up, where it maybe isn't pulling the host name, but the IP is changing, and then it gets flagged as a new unknown host. So that is specifically something, John, might be good to open up a ticket just so we can track the life cycle of that question. Um, any further questions um, on the unknown hosts tab? Don't believe I see any. Were there any other questions that we missed, Nick?
Nope. You've answered all the questions so far, Pat.
Okay. Yeah, again, yeah, so John, I would encourage you to open up a ticket just so we can track that through our system. Um, and yeah, so that's all I had on the agenda for today. Just things I wanted to cover in terms of the upcoming updates that we're going to have with the underlying OS, and as well as the vulnerability scanner, and of course, um, the new hardware that we're switching to, ASUS, which is going to allow us build to order. as well as some other fun things with that. Just making sure that everyone is on the latest and greatest agents, at least being on the minimum agent manager, just so you can centrally manage everything through the hosts tab. We talked about Azure, and then we reviewed the unknown hosts. One thing as well, of course, if it does have an agent on the asset, it will dynamically update any networking configurations and IP changes for that agent. It will automatically do that. If the asset does not have an agent and is not a syslog oriented or input oriented asset, it could, if it is continuously getting DHCP lease changes, will continually show up in unknown. And that is something I'll just go and double check and ask the devs if that's something that we have a mitigation for or plan to in future. But other than that, just kind of going to open up the floor to see if there's any other Q&A for any other aspects of the tool: SIM, inventory, vulnerability scanning, the compliance planner. Just want to make sure that any and all questions are captured and answered. Just give everyone time to type. Okay, I think it appears that we're all set. Nick, did you have anything else you think would be worth covering today?
I think you covered everything I personally wanted to look at today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, over the last couple of webinars, we've pretty much covered everything that's come out in 2.14. So,
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we have a lot of return people from prior webinars as well. So, unless anyone has any new unique questions that maybe Pat or I couldn't think of, I think pretty much covered all our bases today.
Yep. Yeah, we'll wrap this up today. This was recorded. I will go and edit. I apologize. I thought I was sharing my screen at the very beginning, but I'll edit the YouTube to reflect it was just the title slide essentially. And the previous webinar, we did have some audio issues. I did go through and edit that, so we might have 2 webinar videos in quick succession going up on YouTube. I think this one went a bit better than last time, and we'll continually do this the first Tuesday of every month, unless otherwise, unless we have a scheduling conflict and change. So thanks everyone for your time today. I'll see you next month. This will show up on YouTube, and of course, any questions, please direct them to Nick. And of course, if support is the best avenue, please open up a ticket through either sending an email to support@NeQterLabs.com or through the submission form through the knowledge base flyout in your platform. Thank you everyone today, and have a great rest of your month, and we'll talk soon.
Have a good one, everybody.